What's up, everybody? I'm here with my friend Arnùlfur from Iceland.
Yes.
I know I did not pronounce that right because Icelandic is a very, very difficult language.
Correct.
I would imagine. How would you say
it? Pronounce it?
Yeah.
Arnùlfur. That's a little bit for you to chew on, right?
Yeah. Arnùlfur.
It's like you have to scream it a little bit, like Arnùlfur.
Arnùlfur.
I think it's like...
Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like when Vikings were going into battle, they just go like Arnùlfur.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, that's great. I feel like people in Iceland are even like more Viking than Swedish people, it seems, because if you think about like in terms of the language that the Vikings spoke, like Iceland being such an isolated island, their languages maybe evolved a little bit less than say Swedish.
Very little, very little. If you could, I can still read literature from year 1000.
Wow.
It has of course changed, but we can still understand it. So it's just like this is just a bunch of scumbags that didn't like the things how they were done in the north and went on open boats over to Iceland and settled there, and then they got isolated.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I think about if I try to read English from the year 1000.
It's changed a whole lot.
I mean, I can't even read. I mean, people think that like Shakespeare is old English. Actually, Shakespeare is the first modern English, one of the first modern English writers. So if you go back,
I didn't know that.
If you go back 500, if you go back 500 years before Shakespeare, it's like reading a completely different.
I didn't
language.
know that.
It's really so. I think Icelandic is really unique in that way that it's a language that's evolved much less than almost all the other modern languages out there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's old school.
Yeah, definitely. Old school is right. So since I have Arnùlfur here today, I thought we would do some comparisons between Sweden and Iceland because these are both Nordic. Would you say Nordic?
Iceland is a part of the Nordic countries, but not part of Scandinavia.
Okay.
And I think like Finland is part of Scandinavia, but not part of the Nordic countries. I think it's something like, if you're from Finland, you know, I'm sorry,
I think I'm gonna have to put this up on the screen because I'm not 100% sure. I thought Scandinavian countries was Denmark, Sweden, Norway. I'm not sure if Finland is, because
maybe Finland is in nothing of these.
Yeah, the Finnish is like, well, no, I thought Finland was Nordic, or no?
Iceland is definitely part of the Nordic countries, but it's definitely not part of Scandinavia. So Scandinavia is this continent that we are on now.
Yeah, the Scandinavian Peninsula. Is that what they say? I think that sounds about right. We're learning just as fast as you guys are. Yeah. So what do you think, being from Iceland, what do you think, and now living in Sweden, what do you think are some of the biggest differences in the people in Iceland and Sweden?
One first thing you have to understand that Iceland was not independent until 1944. So it's under the Danish crown until then. So it hasn't been independent since less than 100 years.
Okay.
And I think that just being that and this freshly independent, there's a lot of like this motivation to just do stuff and how do you explain this good?
Well, one time you were talking with me about how like Iceland being in the middle of the Atlantic, it's got this interesting influence of European influence and also maybe some American influence.
Yeah, definitely. So before 1944, Iceland was a third world country, like super poor. 1944 they broke them free from the Danish crown, and also at that time there was the war, and Iceland got the biggest, like the most martial aid from the US of any country per capita. So your country was pumping in money, building up the road system and all that. Why, you might ask? They were building they had a military base there. So they were like buying goodwill of the Icelandic people, and at that time Iceland was an important military strategic place because they were checking on submarines in the North Atlantic Ocean.
Interesting.
And I think that because of that, there is a huge influence from the American society, and you can see that there is way more capitalism there than here. But there is still, we still have great healthcare. Yeah. So it's not like when I talk to my US friends and there's no healthcare, and school is almost free. But there's still more of that independence thinking than I'm here. Here people are more thinking people are okay with paying a lot of taxes here because you're doing it to have good Sweden. But there is like people can, nag all the time about taxes and it's more, you come from America.
Yeah,
it's more of that freedom for the individual.
Definitely. And I notice like that for me is one of the biggest differences between Sweden and America is that socialistic mentality that people have here where everybody's sort of in it together. We all want to pay our fair share. And I think even though Sweden pays extremely high taxes compared to the US, people are willing to do it because they feel like they get the benefits out of it. Whereas in America, people are much more conservative in that way when it comes to paying high taxes. And you think about half the country roughly voted for Donald Trump. And whether you like Donald Trump or dislike Donald Trump as a person, I know a lot of people in the US that voted for Donald Trump strictly because of the lower taxes, lower regulations, conservative policies, and maybe they didn't necessarily agree with some of the things that he was writing on Twitter and some of these things that you see in the media and these sorts of things. But in terms of policy, I think that shows that Americans want to pay less tax. They don't want the government to be involved. It's sort of this every person for themselves, provide for yourself, and just stay out of my business sort of mentality. Whereas in Sweden, it's much less like that. And Iceland, you think, is somewhere.
It's definitely in the middle, like definitely. But I think I like it here because I think when I'm speaking to especially people in the UK or in the US, I think they don't understand that you get it back. Yeah. I know loads of people from these countries. It's so fun to say from these countries. You're from one of these countries.
Exactly.
But they have like school loans, like they went to university and then they're in debt.
Yeah.
Like huge debt. And then you kind of dug yourself in some sort of a hole. You have to do this, you cannot change. So I like it here. That's why I live here.
I think it's very funny when I have conservative American friends that move to Sweden and they love the lifestyle here in Sweden, and they still vote for conservative policies in America.
It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
I'm like, okay, so you like the lifestyle, but then again, people also make the argument that Sweden's a much smaller country, and it's much easier to take care of 10 million people than 300 plus million people in America. So
probably. One big thing about Iceland versus Sweden is that Iceland have 370,000 people. Total.
Yeah.
So it's like what? Uppsala?
Yeah, it's super small. And they still somehow made it to the semifinals of the Euros or the World Cup, right? Yeah. That's insane to me. Whatever they're doing with football, they're doing.
There was really the Swedish coach. You know that. We had Iceland was sucked in football, and you got the Swedish coach Lars Lagerbäck. He took Iceland to EM och the other thing in Swedish called
the World Cup. Yeah.
We call it HM, Heimsmeistarakeppni.
You know, it's crazy when 300,000 people population in Iceland makes it to the World Cup, and America with 350 million people doesn't make it to the World Cup.
Do you even you do soccer? I know that you call it soccer, you do football.
Exactly.
But is it popular?
It is. I think in terms of like the youth, it's very popular. But then we have so many other sports where there's a lot more money and a lot more influence in the game, like American football is the number one watched sport in America, followed by, I think you've got basketball, baseball, and then soccer would be like right there on hockey, like in fourth or fifth place. So if you're a really good athlete in America, you're much more likely to try to make it as a basketball player or an American football player.
It's funny, here in Europe it's all about football, or soccer for you. But football for us, you know.
Yeah, and American football, it's funny because America is really the only country that has a really competitive league in American football. And so whoever wins that league, they crown themselves world champions.
I know that. When I watch it, but this is like all of with America. If you watch NBA, it's like actually they might be world champions in basketball because that league is insane. But still, I always find it so ignorant. Like what the.
Yeah, exactly. like if you have like when Michael Jordan was playing for the Bulls and they said they were world champions, you know, it's like all right, well any team from Spain can like try to take us on, and
it's true though.
We can prove it. Like, but it is a little bit like putting the cart before the horse.
Definitely.
Just say NBA champions. And then
Definitely.
Yeah. So one thing I heard about Iceland that's interesting to me is. You talked about them being a little bit more of a third world country before, and now Iceland is much more developed, it seems like. And I was reading something because Iceland's so well positioned, there's a lot of flights that like to stop in Iceland. So when you're, like for me, the easiest way to fly from Portland, where I'm from, to Stockholm, one of the quickest, most direct routes is to go from Portland to Reykjavik, and then Reykjavik to Stockholm. It's like an 8-hour flight and then like a 2.5, 3-hour flight. And so it's a really, really good position for that. And there's a lot of people that would do these like these stopovers, and they make a cool tourist destination out of it. And I heard that Iceland really has made a big industry out of tourism.
Tourism is the number one industry in Iceland right now. it wasn't always like that, but there are a few things that happened. The financial collapse 2007 made Iceland a little bit more affordable. Iceland is ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
I know a beer here downtown can cost like what, 50 crowns, something like that, 60.
Yeah, depending on where you go.
Well, depending on where you go, you can go to 29 crowns too. And Iceland, the cheapest one is like 100 plus Swedish crowns.
Yeah. The cheapest one.
The cheapest one.
So if you go to Lion Bar in Iceland.
Yeah, that's like then we're buying it for 100.
And how about if you go to a fancy bar in Iceland? Then
You
it's
can
like
easily
200?
go. Yeah, I used to work in a craft bar and we sold beers for over 200 there.
Oh my god.
I know. But the
Yeah.
salary is also good, but it's
Yeah.
just ridiculously expensive.
So in US dollars, that's like $20 for beer. So what about everybody says Norway is the expensive one. How about Norway versus Iceland?
Iceland and expensiveness, I'd say they're pretty similar. There might be some differences in what is more expensive, but they're both pretty expensive.
Yeah, wow, that's insane. I remember going to the airport, and I had a very, very short layover last time I was there, so I didn't really have a chance to like actually go into Iceland and see anything. Actually,
you should, man.
I want to.
I'll show you around. It's like Iceland is
definitely.
beautiful.
I see so many travel vloggers and all the beautiful
That's the thing,
waterfalls and beaches, and this guy's got amazing content on his YouTube channel and TikTok and just some of the pictures that he takes. That's actually how we met each other. I saw some of his photos on Instagram and I was like, wow, this guy's cool. We should meet up. It's fun to meet other
That's like 3 years ago now. I was looking through old stories and I was looking at the first stories we made and I was like, what, this is like 2017?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Time flies.
Time has been flying.
Time flies.
It's crazy. But yeah, Iceland, it just seems like very, very beautiful country. And I watched this documentary on Netflix with Zac Efron. Have you seen that one?
No.
The first episode is all about Iceland.
Oh, cool.
And he goes to Iceland and he shows their commitment to sustainable energy. And what are their thoughts? Where you're coming from? Like in Sweden, I feel like people are much more likely to like be recycling, be sustainable. There's more vegetarians and vegans here in Sweden compared to America in general. I think people are much more conscious about the environment and these sorts of things.
Especially in Sweden. So the Swedish people are doing a top-notch job when it comes to like just opening up the environmental question. Way more than Iceland. Iceland are doing a good job when it comes to making sustainable energy, but you have to understand one thing about Iceland, that there's only 370,000 people. That makes that everybody's connected. So there's not a corruption like in places, like in other places, but there is a lot of this, the prime minister now, she's Katrín Jakobsdóttir. I used to do magic once. She used to be in the My Magic community. We have like this magic guild in Iceland. She used to be there because she was interested in magic. So I've met her, like I've spoken to her and chilled with her. And this is the prime minister of my nation. And because of this, there are a lot of these deals going on. So Iceland makes a whole lot of energy, way more. I think the Icelandic nation, like the people there, only uses like a fraction of that like energy. The rest is sold to companies to make aluminum and other things too, like heavy industry. So it's not all true, but it's advertised outwards like, yeah, we're so green, but I know the whole of this energy is made towards,
Yeah. And you probably make much of a smaller footprint being such a small country.
Oh, 100%. This is like taking the bus here in Sweden and the metro is fantastic. In Reykjavik, it's similar to when I'm speaking to my friends from LA or something. There are suburbs. Everybody has one or two cars. That's just big. My father has like 3 cars.
I think you have to. I mean, you have to have when you live in such a rural area.
100%.
Like I live in the city center in Stockholm, and I would not want to have a car.
No.
Because to try to park your car, it would just be a hassle. And
driving here, have you driven in Stockholm?
Yeah. And it's not
take
fun
a wrong turn
at all.
and it's like.
No, exactly. So I much prefer to not have a car, and because the public transportation is so good in Stockholm, and even in the smaller towns, it's really good. I used to live in Norrköping, and they had the tram lines, and you could get everywhere in buses where you would need to go.
It's fantastic.
Really, really good. And in America, and I imagine in Iceland, you are reliant on a car.
Like there is system, like this is what I've been saying, it really is, I like the system in Iceland because it really is like a mix of this American capitalism and the Scandinavian socialism. So there is of course public transportation, but it's not like here, I never check the app like when should I go? Because I know I can go there, and if I'm unlucky, I wait 7 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. If you miss a bus in Iceland, it's probably a little
half an hour, something like that.
In the cold, that's the worst. Yeah, but actually, I think that in a way, like the community transportation can sometimes have an impact on people's attitudes as well. So like I think of 2 examples in America. You've got New York, which has very, very good public transportation, and a lot of people ride the subways and take the trains and things in New York. And there's this sort of, if you talk to people that have lived in New York, been in New York, they say that there's this sense of community, like everybody's in it together, everybody's trying to, you know, progress and do this thing. Whereas if you go to the West Coast and you go to LA, for example, where the public transportation it's almost impossible to get around with, everybody has a car. And there's also more of this like individualistic mentality where everybody's trying to make it in the show business industry, trying to make it as an actor, actress. And there's much more emphasis placed on the individual. And it's interesting that maybe it's just a coincidence with this example, but I feel like in these places that have really good public transportation, there's also this sort of sense of community and people are less individualistic.
Because you're hanging out with each other all the time. We're in the subway together, you know.
But here's the difference between New York and Stockholm. In New York, you can go out on your own and take the subway and you can have conversations with people and that's completely normal. You just meet people when you're out and about. And in Sweden, if somebody approaches you and talks to you, you're like, well, we don't do that here. Like, who's this? Is he weird? And like in America, you can have like a perfectly normal conversation with like normal people. And here it's almost like if somebody's talking to you, like, what like people don't like to talk to strangers as much here. What's that like?
In Iceland, it's very similar to here, I would say. I think it's something to do with the Nordic countries. It's cold, you know. Can you imagine being in these places on Earth 300 years ago? It probably sucked, you know, without the electricity and the warm houses.
But you would think that you need that sense of community to like survive.
I think the cold makes you just, you know, hard and harsh. But I think that once you get to, because I think that the Nordic people, Icelanders and Swedes and Norwegians, I think they're not so superficial. It's not a lot of that high flattering and all that I get from other countries. Once you get to know people here, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you are really a part of the community. They invite you, hey, you want to come? Yeah. Like, I used to do a whole lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And when I was just going about training something, so very quickly people are like, hey, you want to come with us to this lake? And we're going to like swim and all the things that Swedish people do in the summertime.
Yeah, it's cool. And that I think is once you do make those bonds and friendships,
then you have them
stronger. You know? And I think maybe that is why that might be related to the weather and the harsh community, because you need those people that you can like really rely on to get through. Maybe.
I think so. I don't know. It's definitely a cultural thing, and it's very similar in Iceland. One thing that is also a little bit different is that in Iceland you have a lot of this saying, this like "þetta reddast." It means just like it's going to be okay. So sometimes when I'm with my Swedish friends, they get a little bit stressed. It needs to be planned out and all that, and I'm like, dude, just chill out. Þetta reddast. It's gonna work out, you know. So that I think is a big that you should say to. I think I'm trying to learn all my. If you're Sweden, and you like a little bit stressed because you need to plan, you say to yourself, "Þetta reddast." Þetta reddast. It's going to be okay. You know?
Yeah, perfect.
It's like my brother is doing something, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Hey, "Þetta reddast." And I'm like,
I like that. We should add that.
We should add that to Swedish, right?
Add that to Swedish, yeah. Bring back the old Norse language.
The old Icelandic, yeah.
Okay, so one last question to wrap this up. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Where would you rather live if you could only live in one country for the rest of your life between Sweden and Iceland?
Dude, I cannot answer that.
I told you I was putting you on the spot.
I cannot. So, honestly, like right now, I live in Sweden now, and I've been here for a few years. I really much like life here at the moment. And we're a few Icelandic people. I almost only chill with Icelandic people here, because Icelandic people find each other, and we sometimes talk about like, damn, and we're in a similar age, around 30, and we often connect like, wow, life is very, very good here. It's easy. I know the Swedish people complain often about the housing market, but it's just supply and demand. The housing market here, if you're trying to live in Iceland, is very difficult to get a place. You often have to buy, and then you take loans, and it's just a difficult place. Many of my friends there maybe still living at the parents' places, because it's just so ridiculously expensive to buy it's hard to buy your own place. Here, nobody. If you're over 25 and you live with your parents, I think many Swedish people think you're a loser.
Yeah, Swedish people move out at one of the youngest ages in the entire world.
And it's because they have these fantastic universities, so that you can get these apartments and all that. So and buying groceries here, I know that compared to many countries it's expensive, but compared to Iceland and those places, it's very affordable.
Yeah.
And being that Sweden is one of the richest countries on earth, then it's still, I think, I can get a whole lot for my money, even though I get a little bit lower salary here.
Yeah.
So right now, I would definitely like to live in Sweden, and I'm gonna stay here. But in the future, I would like to move back to Iceland too, because there is something about a gritty feeling in Iceland that it's so raw there. It's just so raw. There's not nearly as much to do as here.
Yeah.
So you're just out in nature, and the weather is horrible. Like there is windy almost all the time. When my Swedish friends are here, like, hey, it's stormy in Sweden, and I look out and like, this is not stormy.
Yeah.
This is nothing. This is stormy. Is like when it's like, and they close the roads.
Yeah.
The roads are often closed in Iceland during winter. They close the city. You're not allowed to go out because the weather is bad, like proper bad. Like nothing kills you in Iceland. There are no animals and stuff, but people die from the weather every year.
That's crazy.
So in like the weather is horrible, and I like that.
Yeah.
You see my photography. I like it when it's this gritty and nice. So, and there's something also if you listen to Icelandic music and there's something about Reykjavik that is just it's fantastic. I like it. So and that's my question.
That's interesting.
That's a long answer.
I would have taken that a different way because I'm already complaining about the weather in Sweden. So I think the weather in Iceland. I don't have the Viking genes like.
No. You see, this skin is not made to be in sun. You know, it's like made to be in shitty weather.
I got a mix of Italian and German, and so
then you understand.
That's too far for me.
But it's nice also being on the continent. Here, like. And that's the last thing I'm gonna say. Like one big difference when you in Iceland is an island, so you feel that you are isolated.
Yeah.
Here, when I'm here, I'm like, wow, I can really drive to Denmark, or I'm connected.
Yeah.
There you are not connected. So there is something we often say there's something in the water, but there is something in the air you breathe and the water, and that you're isolated. That makes you feel really Icelandic, you know, you're really connected to your nation.
Definitely.
And when I'm outside and I hear Icelandic, I always say hi. I'm like, Íslendingar, hi.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. You guys share a unique bond.
Yeah, it's a bond, you know, and there's a few people, and we know we're from Iceland.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's how I feel when I see Swedes when I'm abroad. Like,
hey, tjena,
what's up? Yeah, that's great. All right, well, I think that pretty much does it for this video. If we did not answer something that you were curious about with Iceland and Sweden, ask in the comment section and smash
another video.
Yeah, we can make another video. Smash that like button so we know that you guys liked it. If you do like this, you can check out Arnùlfur's work as well. I'll put his YouTube channel below. Lots of camera tutorials, these sorts of things. And with that, we'll see you in another video.
Bye.